Andy Borkowski here, VGS. We're in the corner of the Xbox booth here at E3, and I am looking at my most anticipated game of E3. I saw the trailer, I broke down in tears, and now I get to play it and find out about the smart glass integration. Cannot wait for it. Who am I with today?
Hey, how you doing? My name is Justin Roby. I'm a senior producer at Microsoft. I'm working on both the multiplayer and the smart glass integration part of the Ryse Son of Rome.
Awesome. Now let's get started with the smart glass integration. For those of you who are listening, I'm looking at this amazing setup. We got the Xbox One Connect all set up and a tablet set up adjacent to the Xbox One that has a timeline feature on it so far with, of course, the main screen above. Now from here, what exactly, how does this work? Give us a rundown.
Okay, so yeah, you are correct. It is running right now on a Microsoft Surface, but it works on Android, iOS, all mobile devices. And what this is it's a strategy guide tailored for you. So it's basically a glimpse of the whole game, and it breaks across the whole entire game, but right now you're looking at just the E3 level itself. It can be as simple as just showing your friends and their progress, or it can be as complicated as showing you, well, not complicated, as robust as showing you every achievement, every secret, everything that you would want. So no longer having to go to YouTube or GameFAQs. We do it for you. It's right here, and it runs real time along with you as you play through the game.
So often, that's what I do. I have it open, I have the iPad open, and I have that info right beside me, and you're going to make sure it's integrated and working right there.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, the best thing is that it works in tandem with the game experience. So as you're playing, and when we hit start, you'll see this timeline moving along real time with you, and then making those hints and saying, hey, achievement coming up, hey, secret coming up. And so you'll get to see that as you get along and play.
Awesome. So let's take a look of how it works here. Is there any way you can interact with it, or?
Well, yeah, okay, so there's more than just that. It's also the entire Ryse UI. So the same UI that you have on the Xbox experience, you also have on Smart Glass. So you can do most of the things that you can do on the console. Obviously, you can't play the game from Smart Glass without the console. But at the same time, you can set up multiplayer matches. You can sit on the bus and play with your executions, customize your gladiator, play with achievements. Look and at the same time, you can view highlight videos via the game DVR. Think of it as YouTube for Ryse. Leaderboards, look at strategies, look at yourself, and then of course read community news and highlights as well. All without being connected to the box.
And graphically, just to give a little explanation, it's so high fidelity. It looks just as sharp as the massive screen that's above it. It's really, really incredible.
Yep, and then at the same time, it's social as well, so it'll change based on where you are. Right now, we're seeing a palace. You can see there's smoke in the back, but as you change levels, the UI changes with you. So even your friends, as they get a glimpse of it, you'd be like, oh, dude, you're on Dover, because you would see the Dover background, and as you can see it. So it's all very social and cool stuff like that. So, but the best way for you to do it, and I'm sorry for the listeners, but he needs to put it down and play.
Yeah, I'm going to get my hands on it right now. As soon as I'm done, I'm going to be talking again. Thank you so much for taking the time, sir.
No problem, man. And we'll talk to you. We'll talk more here in a bit.
Right after the break, we'll talk more about Ryse Son of Rome coming out for Xbox One.
There once was a shining city on 7 hills, a place of beauty and freedom. Then freedom became corruption, decadence, and degradation. But the gods know what once was can't be again. If a son of Rome were to rise.
Andy Borkowski here, VGS, Talk Radio AM 640. I'm here at E3, the Xbox booth. Just got my hands on Ryse Son of Rome. Incredible experience. Right before I got a chance to play it, we learned about Smart Glass, its iteration, how exactly it's integrated with the game. An amazing experience. We'll go into that in a second. But first, we have someone who's working on the game to tell you more about it. Your name, sir, and your involvement with the game, please.
So my name is PJ Esteves. I'm the design director on Ryse.
So for those who perhaps haven't seen the videos yet, who haven't had the chance to, of course, aren't here and don't get to play it, how would you describe Ryse to someone who knows nothing about it?
Well, I mean, Ryse is a third-person action adventure where you play Marius Titus, who's a Legionnaire. And the basic idea behind the game is that story-wise, you know, you're a Legionnaire, your father was a general, and you kind of see your family like murdered in front of your eyes. So you kind of go on this journey of revenge, which is a very classic kind of Roman tale. And you know, you kind of go into the depths of Britannia and back into Rome. And so that's the kind of context for the world, right? We try to keep it very cultural, very Roman. But like once you kind of get into the actual game, it really is about going from a Legionnaire to a general and experiencing all the types of warfare that Roman combat kind of had. So.
In terms of E3 of what you're showing today, could you talk us through a little bit about what was available in the demo, what we saw the main character going through, and what players got to experience?
Yeah, sure. So there are really kind of about three main components here. What you're seeing is like, you know, after you have this shell shock moment where the boulder happens and you kind of like wake up, it's just like kind of our core combat experience. And this is, you know, what we call something we call mass combat. The idea is that you know, you don't have to fight the same guys over and over again. You can move around the battlefield, fight whoever you want, and the battle kind of follows you around. But you know, the combat itself is very much based on flow. So it's based on rhythm and timing. So we have this system we call, you know, mashing to mastery. And the idea is that you can button mash, and you know, you'll do fine, but you won't do great. But if you get the right timing and the right rhythm down, you'll kind of, you know, open the guys up longer, you know, be able to perform more combos and stuff like that. And then, you know, on top of that, we have these executions. So once you kind of wear a guy down, you hit your B button, you get this awesome execution. And a lot of people see, you know, the button prompts after that and they think it's quicktime events, but it's actually just this kind of bonus you get from the executions. If you don't do anything, you don't get the bonus, but if you keep the rhythm going, like core combat, you will kind of, you know, get these extra bonus modifiers.
Having the chance to play it for just around 10-15 minutes, it's exactly what you said of from mashing to mastery. At the very beginning, we're going through the demo, and you know, it's a little trepidatious. You got these big barbarians firing at you. It's a lot of mashing the X button. But by the end, you had the opportunity, at least I did when I was playing, to string together these amazing executions wherein you're getting 2 or 3 different enemies involved at one time. Artistically, can you describe a little bit about the art direction of this game, of what it's really going for, and what we've shown, what you've been able to show so far?
So yeah, I mean, obviously it's a game set in ancient Rome, so you're going to see a lot of like architectural things that you would expect from Rome, and obviously we're Crytek, right? So we really push the artwork, we push the graphics, but on top of that, we try to make, you know, something that was ownable, some style that was ownable to our Rome. So if you kind of look at the, you know, the main protagonist is like Marius Titus. If you look at his armor, his lorica segmentata, it has a bit of like kind of Art Deco influence on top of it. It's a little bit sharper lines. But if you look at his buddies, you know, they kind of look more classical Roman and stuff like that, although they have little features here and there. So I mean, definitely like art-wise, it is ancient Rome, but we're pushing for our own kind of like, you know, edge to it, I guess we'll say.
How involved did you get into the very vast history that is the Roman Empire? Where, if you could tell us, does this story take place in that timeline? Were you very specific, or is it just dealing with the amazing themes that are developed in that era?
Well, I mean, it's definitely culturally thematic, right? Because the Rome, I mean, we could have, if you know, if we'd have said, let's make a game about the Romans, you know, it would have been like, you know, a 20-year, I mean, it's awesome. We would have loved to have done it, but we kind of had to, you know, pick like, you know, what are the things that are like through Roman history? What are like the biggest Roman, you know, thematic elements? You know, so you have like, you know, political intrigue. You know, you have kind of like.
Do we see any similar conflicts, perhaps, that were mirrored in ancient history?
Well, I mean, you know.
What you can say, obviously.
Yeah. So I mean, it kind of really doesn't matter what point of history it is. Like humans are humans, so kind of the same things you would experience today. It's still applied to ancient Rome, but you know, like the idea of revenge, right? It's a very common theme. But yeah, I mean, this was kind of like, you know, our angle and. You know, we couldn't do it all, so we picked the best that we could do in the certain parts, so it is historical fiction.
You talked about before, Crytek, everything you guys make visually is beyond the rest. That's, again, a hallmark of the games that you've made. The visuals, now you're dealing with a new console, new generation. What was it like to develop this game that was very much touted as a flagship of the new Xbox One? What were some of, I guess, the difficulties of having a brand new system going through, and some of the things you can do now that you could never do before?
Well, I mean, you know, people know us for kind of pushing hardware, right? This whole does it run crisis, you know, kind of thing. So, I mean, the general idea is that whether it's like an iPad or a high-end PC or an Xbox One, you know, we're basically building the best we can for the hardware that we're given. But I mean, you know, in Crytek, the best isn't good enough for us. So if you look at the Xbox One, there are very special things in this engine that is only for Xbox One. You know, so we have like a lot of the kind of new features with, you know, our like real-time simulations of cloth and stuff like that. So, you know, everyone fighting around you has like real-time simulation of cloth. And you cannot believe how many issues it causes with showing a little bit of, like man-ass every once in a while. But in general, right, this is one of the things when you start going too realistic. But
the man-ass is too realistic. That's
well, some people might like. We had one lady earlier that she was like, "Oh, I get to see it. How do I do that?" And I'm like, "Well, you got to work kind of hard because we're trying not to make it happen very much in the game." But I mean, obviously, we also have these really incredible like faces, and so
don't forget the faces. Yeah,
the cinematics and the kind of the in-game. It's really there is no loss in quality. It is the same facial rig, and these are the kind of things that we're really pushing as the hallmark. This idea of 6 feet to 6 inches. This is what Crytek wants to own in the next generation.
Visually, when players first get this game, they first get a chance to actually play, what do you think will be something that really stands out in design so that this feels next gen? It doesn't just feel like what Crytek's done in the past, of where you have pushed it beyond the best, where it's even now a new best because we have that. Is there an instance where you could describe something where that perhaps happened?
Well, yeah, so I mean, I just talked about the facial stuff, right? Yeah. So we've got a really team of dedicated guys, and they're doing their best to add this really great facial during gameplay, right? So this is very different from what we've seen last gen. And then you put a face on like the main protagonist, you're like, wait a minute, there needs to be faces on everybody else. Like it just seems weird. And so you kind of end up doing it. Before you know it, everyone has facial expressions. And so this is like a very, very next gen thing, and something that we're really, really happy how it turned out. So when if you watch the videos or if you play the demo, you'll notice the guys actually will grimace, and they'll kind of like have looks of anticipation and a bit of anger. So I mean that is definitely one of the major things. And obviously the basic stuff is more polys, we can bigger textures, so we're pushing so much more through the pipe than we could on Xbox 360.
In terms of again, this is definitely going to be a non-answer, but in terms of what we know of the story of Ryse, of who we're going to be playing as, what is essentially the journey that you'll be taking in Ryse a little bit more? Because you did mention a bit, playing as you're taking that journey to a new rank, but does he have family? What's the story with that?
Yeah, so I mean, the story itself, I mean, I'll give you some general facts, right? Yes, yeah. There are 15 characters that have had full performance capture. So as you could tell, I mean, with a cast of 15, like what we would call hero level characters, we have just, amazing, scenes played out where you're going to get some of the best fidelity of, performance capture acting in a video game you've seen before. So yeah.
That's all right.
Can't tell you much more.
Yeah.
But, stick around, and there'll be more details being revealed at Comic-Con, I believe. So yeah.
Andy Borkowski here, VGS Talk Radio AM 640. Got a chance to play Ryse, Son of Rome. Thank you so much, sir, for taking the time. We really do appreciate it. Make sure you check it out. Another reason why you should purchase Xbox One.
Don't you ever